So here's the lyrical name that tune. I think I've done it before. You're in control. Is there anywhere you want to go? You're in control. Is there anything you want to know? The future's for discovering the space in which we're traveling. Anybody? Anyone gets that? I'd be shocked. But all right, I'm going to say it again just because I like the lines. This, for the last few probably months, I've been slowly trying to convey to you the strands and threads of the spirit of started mind body solutions, but also is integral to my yoga practice. Because I'm always, me having the courage to keep going after stuff. So because we all have moments, and I hope you start becoming aware of yours, where there are pivotal moments where you realize, or you maybe only know them in retrospect, that were big moments and turns in your yoga practice. You're in control. Is there anywhere you want to go? You're in control. Is there anything you want to know? The future is discovering the space in which we're traveling. So part of that for me is that's what I've always felt as one of the guiding signposts of my yoga practice, is this sense of discovery, the fact that I'm on a journey a little bit, right? Instead of always thinking about, oh, I need to know more, as if the realization of yoga is static and your job is to learn what other people know. Any teacher worth their weight in salt, if they are trying to convey from them to you what they know, they're not worth your time, right? That really yogic realization depends on you developing your spirit of adventure, your spirit of seeking, right? And what it takes to have the confidence to do that might have to develop over years, right? Decades. And what's really hard about it is that too early, one of the ways to solve the unknown part of that journey is to think you're always right, that somehow what you're doing is the right thing. No, actually, you're going to make tons of mistakes. I made tons of mistakes, right? And I've gone down wrong rabbit holes, all sorts of stuff. It's not so direct, right? So this idea of that kind of spirit. So now so to me, that's out, but I didn't hear that. I had already been practicing yoga for like 8 years when I heard that song. But I realized that's how I think about my yoga practice. I was exploring what yoga would look like in my body, not believing that whatever I could do was the right thing, but that yoga's principles had application and expression in the mind-body relationship that I had, right? And the courage to keep on that path and stay open, right? So in the beginning of yoga practice, you're in control. Is there anywhere you want to go? Right? But you still have to remain, are you in control? So put a period in that. So the other thing, I'm always about revealing paradox, right? There is a Zen koan that I have this book that I've read for 40 years, well, not 40, like 34, 35 years. And I keep going back to it and thinking about it all the time. But there was a Zen koan. I'm not going to tell you the Zen koan because I don't want to get that far down the rabbit hole. But that they're written down. There's Zen koans, and then a monk wrote them down in the 12th century named Muman. And he would write a poem relative, or a couple of sentences relative. It's called Zen Flesh, Zen Bones, by the way. And he would write a poem relative to the koan, which was always, for your mind, koans are like dead ends. And that's the beginning of the issue, not the end. So About control, he wrote something like, controlled or not controlled, both a grievous mistake. It's like, what? What the hell? Either you're in control or you're out of control. And the wisdom would say, no, they're both mistakes. And yet I just laid out that you're in control. There's anywhere you want to go. Right. So how do you reconcile those two things? I don't know. I do know. I know what it means in my story, right? Right. Like, how do you open up? You're in control enough to become an investigator or an explorer, but you're not gonna in control enough to know exactly what you're gonna realize, right? And it's not always gonna conform. Has anyone realized that sometimes yoga makes you feel worse before it makes you feel better? You have to open up to stuff, right? You don't, it's not just anyone that tells you, oh, yoga is going to change your life always for the better. No, it's going to make it harder for sometimes, and you're going to suffer a little bit more sometimes. And all of the above actually occurs. That's part of you're in control to sit in an exploration that you're not in control of. So sit up straight and tall. Start to feel more rather than less. Allow. I hope you've gotten better at the sensation of allowing, not necessarily surrendering, not collapsing, but allowing. And maybe you figured out that there are some things that you can do that make allowing a sensation. Think about when you're trying to make everything happen. I don't know. I just, the other thing that popped in my head is you have people over and you're trying to make everything perfect. And then if you're wise and you're a little bit older, you realize maybe you should have fun in the middle of while it's happening, right? When it finally gets there, you should let go of stuff and allow the sensations, imperfect or not, right, to be part of the experience. But the sensation of allowing is where else you go, oh, and there's a dropping, and it's got a little aspect of it that's a little bit like Shavasana, right? And then if you like soften your organs of perception a little bit, you realize that, hey, if I try to slow down on trying to make something happen, right? If I just soften around the skin on my face, the temples, the jaw, the inside of the mouth, relax the belly to relax the throat, suddenly my relationship to the space inside of me and outside of me is different. But it's the same as it ever was. Nothing's changed. You've just ungripped it. You're allowing more in. So feel your inhalation and your exhalation. When you allow, you're not just allowing that you're out of control. You're just allowing. Now, what I love about asana is that in the allowing space, I can become more congruent and my structure can actually amplify the sensation. So don't just do Shavasana, feel your feet on the floor and your sitting bones. Lift your chest, balance your head over your neck. Feel the strength of your own structure while allowing the undercurrent of your experience. You can do both. Feel sturdy and open. Find your midline. That means bringing your hands into prayer. That means feeling each sitting bone and inside of each heel on the floor. come to the midline and open. Both. Not one or the other. Engage with more of your effort. Increase the pressure on the heel of your hands and between your palms. But don't let it stop the rising chest, the grounding sit bones. More effort without changing. Good. And then release. Bring your hands down to your thighs, palms up. Take your sternum up towards your chin down and over your sternum. Be happy for your spine. For the fingers of your spine, i.e., your ribs, reaching around your breath, caressing it. Your spine and your breath are intimate. Your mind forgets. Raise your head up with closed eyes. Open your eyes. So there's this weird, well, I say weird, I'm sure, but a thing that a contradiction or a paradox that's always been, in words, it's a paradox. I don't think it is an experience, and that's why I study asana, but the idea is that in yoga, you're supposed to slow down the oscillations of your mind, but at some point, you're supposed to be able to explore and hopefully realize the pure observer of your experience without it having judgment of the mind. Right? So typically the mind is the one that's trying to figure out what's happening. That'd be control, right? What's going on? It's this, it's that. I'll put words to it, right? And yet one of the goals is a different kind of observer. So like, for example, Michael, I'm going to call you out again. Michael is going to have a hard time not moving all the time, a little bit. So his pure observer is going to have to be simultaneous with movement, right? And it doesn't mean you have to be still. It means something else. And the idea that there's a pure observer here that's not just in your head, right? It's not just a mindful place. It precedes your mind. So sit up straight and tall again. So when you're trying to allow and have structure in your body, like alignment, when you're controlling and opening at the same time, how do you do that? You're beginning to open the crack to the pure observer, right? And I've never realized the pure observer, the pure observer, but I practice simultaneity all the time. It's one of the ways you get out of the world of opposites. All right, so that's a lot of words. People are starting to move around because it's like, I'm not following anymore. My mind's getting tired. It's getting tired. Too many words, too many thoughts. oh dear. So start to move around, because if you go to that place that's too mental, you notice that you don't breathe as well. So I'm going backwards and forwards and going off to the side, and we do this each class, right? Maybe do some circles, not just side to side, right? I'm just making stuff up, trying to remember that I've got a whole bunch of possibilities, right? At all times, right? At all times. So, of course, I want you to change the relationship between your tailbone and your femur bone. So I want you to spread your, I'm taking my legs apart now, right? So I want you to open up, because there's a good chance that the base of your spine. So Michael, if you're working here, so just kind of take your hands between your thighs and push them apart, right? Um, got my foot stuck. All right, so try to open up a little bit, right? Get it open here. So, and of course, I'm changing gravity and opening, because I think that's part of my warm up, right? Starting to recognize the difference between opening and gravity changes, right? Recognizing the differentiation between some of the fundamentals of an asana practice, right? And I'm leaning over and making sure I'm grounding and lifting my spine a little bit. We do this a lot. We're not doing the full poses now, but we're starting to not only be open with the legs and the spine, but lengthen the spine up, right? Feel the changes, notice the changes when you go over, right? But you're just trying to observe them. You're letting the movement be mindless, but the mind is in an observation mode, but it's not having it as thoughts, right? It's actually just trying to let the experiences change, because they were always changing. The mind just gets impatient. It wants it to be something. Put the legs back together. So the class in my mind this morning started out with a real simple idea that I wanted to try to work on today, which was it seems so simple. I remember thinking, and human beings try to think of this as like as a prescription. But if you're feeling kind of blue and down, turns out that looking up can help, right? Like taking in more light, right? So just notice the difference between looking down, which is also a good thing, it's grounding, right? And looking up, right? And so it's not the case that if you're suffering with depression, life's as simple as you just need to look up more. That would be trying to use the truth of the difference to control it, right? Right. And so I'm just noticing the difference of when I let things go skyward. We create a lot of story about skyward, right? You put the Greek gods on Mount Olympus, think of heaven up there, right? But notice the difference between just tilting your head up and letting your eyes go up and letting your spine go up with your eyes, right? So the other thing they say that back bends help depression, right? So now as I look up, I'm making sure my chest looks up too, right? And then, collapse back down again. So if I were to ask you, you have to answer this question. You can stencil it internally, right? If I were to ask you, that if you feel this experience and then this experience, go back and do this experience. And then back to the collapse, right? If you had to answer, in which position is more or less of you in the world? Right? So just go like this, like is more of your inside out in the world when your chest is open? And both are, you don't just live one or the other. Like this is a good position when you're collapsed, right? But one's a withdraw, right? And one's a little bit more open. And then go back and just keep noticing the difference. Right? Go back and forth. And then when you open up, so I'm definitely pushing on my legs because I still want the earth. And when I come forward, like there's a gain to coming forward, right? It's a different quality of energy. There's an openness and expansiveness. So if we were to think of someone as a dreamer, would we intuitively think they look up more or they look down towards the earth more? A dreamer, right? There's an energy up here, right? That's different. So now keep the energy of looking up and come back to the midline. All yoga poses are trying to do both of these energies simultaneously. And they have all different types of simple ways to describe. So now I'm coming to the midline, centering, which feels a little bit more like looking down, doesn't it? If you're to like, just a little bit. But as you do that, lift your sternum. Lift it like you're going airborne, like you're looking up. And know that you can do both. Controlled or not controlled, both is a grievous mistake. Breathe. So in all yoga poses, there's some combination happening of both types of energy, at least both those types of energies. So inhale, take your arm up. You go down here with your shoulder blade. You go beyond your fingertips, right? You go down with your shoulder blades to find your heels. You expand your spine up to go up through your fingertips. You do both and observe both. Don't make it happen only. And then exhale, bring your hand over to the side. Take your other hand behind, find balance, right? So now you're going down and up. And then if you broaden between your collarbones, broaden between your shoulder blades, pardon me, you drop the shoulder blades on, lift the chest up, you feel your sitting bones, you're starting to combine more and more. Don't just do it. You have to do it first with your mind, then feel it too. Don't just do. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. Come on, back to center. So you're practicing this more gestalt-like awareness of what's happening without the doing, right? Inhale, take your other arm up. Drop the shoulder blade down, go beyond your fingertips. Drop your shoulder blade down, feel your sitting bones and your feet. Lift the spine up, go beyond the fingertips, right? And then exhale and revolve. Find the balance point on this side. For me, it's different. I grab different places on my wheelchair, right? And so now I'm going to go down and rise up, right? Now I'm going to broaden. But all these things were actually already, you were already in three-dimensional space, right? We're just giving instructions for your mind. Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. But can the mind receive the experience? Can the brain receive all the inputs, not just down, up, but also horizontal? Can it do it without judgment? Inhale, lift up, exhale, revolve. And then come on back to center. Then I'm going to go back and forth again because I kind of squeeze things a little bit too much. Right? Can I do instructions that are aimed for my mind while not being judging them and doing them? What the hell? That language doesn't even make sense. Right. That's why you practice. Right. You're only going to know the pure observer by practicing dimensions of your own experience. And sure, I'm sure the pure observer happens on a continuum. I'm sure that if you really got there, maybe you would be enlightened. That's not for you and me to know. Right? I don't know. But I can tell you, I'm believing in my own experience. I'm watching changes in my own experience. I'm opening to the truth of my own practice. Right? You're in control. Is there anything you want to know? All right. So now, one of the things that inspired this class is this thing I've been wondering about for years. I don't know, long time, but more overtly, probably in the last 7 or 8, when I watched a video of BK Sangar teaching Patricia Walden how to, well, having her demonstrate backbending underneath a horse, a pommel horse, it's a yoga prop. And she was lifting up the yoga prop and incredible strength, right? In a back bend, in a really hard back bend, right? And he asked her, what is she feeling in her center of her chest? And she said, Shavasana. And then I put that line together with a line that comes from another thing I heard B.K. Sangar say in centering, which was the brain has to be passive in asana. The hell does that even mean? So here I'm trying again. So if I'm receiving my experience, like if I go back again and forward again, and I'm watching the gravity changes and the air, me coming into the world when I back be on the earth at the same time. I'm not trying to do them. I'm just trying to recognize the dimensions of the experience I'm already having. They're already happening. Right. And then I'm going to do some things in asana to amplify that. So I'm going to come forward. I'm going to ground. I'm going to hit my sitting bones down. I'm going to rise up through my sternum. I'm going to open my chest. I'm going to broaden between the shoulder blades. I'm going to start to feel all this. But nothing's changed. I'm just trying to follow. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go skyward to more air and go up and over. Nothing's changing, except something's changing, right? I'm trying to stay steady with all it is I'm becoming more congruent in my body with what was already happening in space, right? What? These words fail, right? That's why we do asana. So lift up again, get your spine a little bit less compression, right? So it turns out that if you compress your spine all the time, you're gonna bum out. It's gonna get sore eventually, but your mind's gonna change its shape, right? So now I'm coming forward and I'm bringing this part of me out into the world, right? So I'm moving, feeling the change in gravity, lifting my sternum, springing into the air, and then switching, right? Coming forward. So for me, when I say switching, I've got one hand forward, one hand back. So my base is changing, right? So I have one hand on my foot pedal, one hand on my wheel. So I'm coming forward and I'm springing up, right? And then I'm falling back and I'm noticing all of this stuff, but I'm letting my body do it and then noticing the changes with my mind because the changes were already there, right? And my mind just wasn't processing them. The brain has to be passive, right? Come back into center, find a grounded center, soften the skin on the forehead, the temples, the inside of the mouth. Somehow that feels closer to quote center, right? Right. Now I'm going to add a lift in my chest and then release. So I'm not going to go like, okay, so that, and I'm going to start moving again, but I'm going to try to keep the impression of that centered energy, right? I'm going to start moving, right? And try to keep the other impression because that centering energy is here. So we're kind of learning from Michael right now, right? We're thinking we got movement, but there's got to be calm in another place, right? So, and then sit up straight and tall again and feel grounded. So, if I want my brain to go passive, they're softening the organs of perception. But one of the things that some instructions, and now I realize over my times of practice that we're always trying to show me things like if I tried to separate the skin on my face from my skull. So I'm going to sit here and go, okay. When I do stuff like that, when I include my scalp in the pose, which is something I very rarely do, doesn't the brain get passive? Okay, so that's a trick, right? Can you do that? Can you keep when you're starting to move? So now we're going to get things harder, right? Going to make things harder. So it's going to be easier, in my opinion, for me at least. So I'm going to lean over to my left side, right? I'm going to extend my spine. We did this last week. Open. Now, can I include my head and my scalp in the pose to find the passive energy, right? And then back down. And then I'm going to make it more rhythmic. I'm going to go over to the other side and open. So I'm looking for the movement, right? The spine, the expansion, the down through the sitting bones, down to the feet. And then I'm looking for the other energy, but I'm not looking. I got to allow it to be here, right? And my brain has to be passive. So I'm trying to remember that sensation. So include your scalp, balance your head over your neck, right? So all these things are being part of the experience in the middle of doing an action, right? And so now I'm going to do it this way again. I'm going to go over, expand, go up, right? And so can I get to where I want to work in the pose, but I want my brain to be more passive. So I'm trying to include my scalp in the pose, soften the inside of my mouth, teeth together, lips together, teeth slightly apart. Going to check into my breath. Good. And then release. Come on back to center. So I find, and I don't know why this is, but for example, when I'm changing gravity and opening more like a standing pose, I find it's easier for me to find the passive energy in the middle of effort like that, where I have more space and air happening, right? Than when I'm in upward facing dog. Come forward, right? So come on to so there are different poses. Remember, you need to think you're an explorer. So when I'm down like this, right, it's hard for, so when and I'm going to start to do upward facing dog, right? And so so when I start actually hitting down, lifting the sternum, broaden across collarbone, shoulder blades down, chest up, there's a lot of effort in this pose, right? There's a lot of effort going on. So now, how do I find the more passive brain in the middle of effort that's in a smaller space? So a lot of people just try to find the more passive space by tuning into their breath. It's a good strategy. It's not the only strategy. In an effortful pose, so this is effortful for me. I'm not just hanging out here. It's especially when it's in a smaller space, right? Now compare that to when there's more an expansive space, right? When I've got more air in the pose, when I'm more expansive, I find, and you may be different. I find it's easier, even though there's more balance involved, I find it easier in an expansive space to connect to the energy I access to when I soften the inside of my mouth and include my scalp, right? And then go back the other way, right? So I'm looking and I'm trying to allow. And so it's interesting, space allows my mind not to feel as having to work in the same way. So I'm trying to go, okay, so, and then expand this, get more in space, all the things, right? Feel the pose, and then come back to center. And then come down again. And try to bring that sensation of space and air into upward facing dog. So I'm going to ground. I'm going to find my midline. I've got my hands folded. I could have them even in prayer. I like to fold them, right? To find my midline. I start to lift my sternum, drop my shoulder blades, broaden between my shoulder blades, right? And now I'm looking for that softer space because I know it's here. I don't have to create it. My actions don't create it. It was already here. Lips together, teeth slightly apart, lift under the collarbones. But now keep releasing to the air as you look up. Remember the expansive feeling. Good, and then release. So now, one thing that's kind of nice about back bending over the chair is that you get this space in you more easily, right? So again, we're thinking about why would going up and looking up and then bringing this energy into the room more, why might that help with depression and feeling blue, right? So I'm grounding here. So I'm finding the other space, right? And the other space being the more, but I'm trying to stay open. So when I start to feel up and over and open myself, my spine into this space, then I'm staying grounded too. So I actually taste the quote water that I'm drinking. Good. And then release. So that idea of tasting the water that you're actually drinking. People drink water and don't think that water has taste, right? So their movements, some days you're just kind of getting up and doing your yoga practice and you're moving around and you're, thinking it's all in the movement and you're, doing all this stuff, but you're not tasting the water while you're doing it. There's nothing wrong with that. But remember, we're trying to taste the water while we're drinking it. And that has a lot to do with having the brain passive, being able to really feel the taste. So I'm going to really try to receive this next back bend, right? I'm going to go back for a little bit so I don't get my mind too anticipatory, right? I'm moving around. I'm actually going to even get some lightness in my spine. right? And then I'm going to go and try to really feel, not lead with my mind, the taste of the background. Good. And then release. So you're in a room full of strangers, right? The energy that just came out of your back bend, right? There's reasons why when you're in a room full of strangers, you probably don't want to share that energy, right? That just came out of the center of your chest, right? You're probably not sharing the best of you when your mind is on guard. You may not even share the best of you when you're with your family, right? But they might not even notice if you do share that part of you because people aren't that observant, right? They're just not. It's your little secret. You're in control. Is there anywhere you want to go? What parts of you are you gonna bring in and out of your experience? All right. So I'm rocking back and forth right now because and I'm lifting my chest. So I'm practicing a mini version of upward facing dog, reminding myself that I get to bring into whatever space, whatever I want to bring. Right. So some of you are swaying side to side because that's the part of you that wants to be brought into your life more. Good. Figure out what it is. You know, that, well, in fact, I kind of like that going back and forth, side to side, right? Like that's a space I forget, right? When I'm in a room full of people. One of the things that I've, had a like hit me like a lightning bolt was how much of a loss of rhythm I accepted when I became disabled. I didn't even know it. So again, I'm moving again, right? That a lot of times people with hard bodies and hard movement patterns, ones that are more challenging, think that they're lost to rhythm. Big mistake, right? So I'm just kind of finding a rhythm practice, right? And there's a reason why vinyasa yoga is more popular, right, than what I study, is because there's something really nice about the rhythm, right? The movement, though, can cover up recognizing all the happening, right? All right, so let's spread the legs again. Make the legs apart. I don't want to go into my computer, so I'll keep backing up. Hopefully you can see my legs now, right? I'm going to take one arm behind my chair. So I'm going to make this be more of a twist. But before I do, I'm in the rush of the twist. That's my mind leading, right? So I want to start observing what I'm feeling when I change gravity and go down and lean. So I'm paying attention, or I'm letting my mind process what's already happening. Then I'm going to turn. I'm going to make this more of an active twist. I'm going to use my yogic principles, like down through my sitting bones, lengthen my spine, broaden the space between the shoulder blades, feel where my feet are, right? And I'm not going to physically twist as much, but I'm going to take my head back to remember the air, right? And then release. And come back. Kind of wish I had this bamboo plant on the other side. Kind of liked feeling the bamboo plant on my head, right? Instead of being bothered by it, I let it into my pose. right? And I'm going to go the other way and I'm going to miss the bamboo plant, right? So I'm leaning forward, right? I'm feeling all the space, right? And then I'm going to grab to where I'm going to twist more, right? It's different on each side, man. Like my right shoulder's, I got to be really careful with it, right? So now I'm going to start twisting more, but I'm going to wait. I'm going to make sure I'm feeling rhythm here too. Because I was letting go of rhythm because I was worried about my shoulder. So I'm going to open up and start to revolve and open. Oh, I like that. That just made my feet smile, right? When I use rhythm too. And I'm breathing. Good, and then come on back. So the line that just made my feet smile, that would be my own practice, believing in my own practice. All of a sudden, I'm gonna do it the other way again now. The idea that if I can get my spine expanded, see, it's happening now more on the other side too. If I get open and I get twisted and I do it really well and with grace and with space and with opening, I swear to God, I'm calling it smiling, but I can feel the energy, the subtle body go all the way down through my feet. Damn, I like that, right? It's on a place that's effortless. I don't have to push the energy into my feet. I'm doing the twist and the lean over and all that stuff. But the pranas, my awareness of the prana is flooding there. The prana already was there. Coming back to center. I'm going to go do it one more time because I just like you don't have to. I forgot to open to my bamboo tree plant. I'm going to let that be part of my pose. All right, so I'm going to go the other way. Again, it's funny, I felt it more on this side, the flooding, but the second side, I got it there on the side I just did. So I'm going to go over, go up, lift my chest. Make sure I'm getting the sky like a back bend by relaxing my neck. Lift my sternum, extend, ground. Oh, goodness, there it goes. My mind finally plugs into what's happening. Breathe. Good, and then release. I'm coming forward because that was actually kind of a big experience for me. So I'm finding my center again through some rhythm. And then bringing my legs together. Now I'm going to try to land. I'm going to take a second to feel the energy I just gained. So now I'm bringing it back to Tadasana. So I'm bringing my legs together and I'm trying to feel it in my midline. I'm going to come forward a little bit and very, without trying too hard at all, bring it through a gentle upward facing dog. And then bring it through a back bend that's more spacious. And then land it again towards my base. And then lift it again, including my scalp and the softening of the inside of my mouth. And then make it burst again. Feel the bursting energy by opening my spine. Then I'm going to land it in some poses I know. I'm going to put my hands on the table or on my thighs and do downward facing dog. Trying to bring the gains into poses I know. So I'm lengthening my spine. I'm separating my sitting bones from my lifting chest. I'm making space in my low back. I'm dropping my shoulder blades, right? I'm lifting my sternum while keeping my gaze towards the floor. I'm going to try to bring in all the experience by breathing into my pose and let it connect to the other movement. Good. And then release. Going to do the springing just a little bit because I don't want to lose the light feeling, the spacious air feeling as I head towards Shavasana. Right? So I'm making space and creating traction in my spine again because I don't want to just sit back into the other world. So I could go right to the world I sit in. I'm about to work at my computer a lot today, and I know I'll end up collapsing into this space into my low back. Right? And I don't want that. I want to create an imprint that's going to stay with me all day, even though physically I'm going to keep compressing my spine. It's okay, right? So I'm going to lean down my forearm on my right forearm on my right knee, and I'm going to twist just a little bit and just visit stuff. Then I'm going to have arms without having arms out. I'm going to like remember that I can take the empty space and make my spine reach out this way and this way, right? And turn my head. Then I'm going to go and revolve it and keep under the balance point and go the other way. Have a pose that has more sets of arms. So I'm grounding with my set of arms, and then I'm feeling the expansion with another set of arms with my arms wide. And I'm smiling because I get to describe it any way I want to. Right? I get to describe it any way I want to. I just don't have to convince you you have more sets of arms. Except I think I might be right. But it's for you to discover. I don't have multiple sets of arms that could grab water glasses. I couldn't grab 4 glasses of water with 4 different arms. Right? I accept that. What's my criteria for what's happening? Sit up straight and tall. Now, my arms are being straight ahead or down here. I'm grabbing here to lengthen my spine. So I'm using this for leverage to expand, to lift my spine some so I don't have to be in the contractor. Because when my spine is collapsed, it's much harder to extend arms out my shoulders, like my invisible arms, right? So I'm gonna grab here and lengthen my spine, broaden across my chest. And I'm going to extend arms out this way. Now to do it, I'm going to have to sit down through my sitting bones and expand out to the top of my head. So Mike, I really like this for you. Expand arms out your shoulders, right? Renee, you get to do it with real arms. That's cool. Just have to keep the arms that are holding you up to breathe. Good, and then release. Practice some symmetry. Feel each foot, each sitting bone, where each shoulder tip is. But I'm curious, Renee, when you took your arms wide, were you still grabbing your chair at the same time with the other set of arms? I want you to try to do, if you're going to go the opposite direction, still do the whole pose that you know what I mean? Do it the opposite way. I don't care which way you do it, right? Feel each foot, each sitting bone, each shoulder tip. And then, aren't you glad you got collarbones? Because then you can find where your neck is and shoulder blades. And so you're just trying to feel fullness. Feel your spine is sturdy. Open to that you're connected to the whole room, that there's air above you, that your sternum could look up without looking up. All these things are happening. And you're going to bring all of it into the support of Shavasana, then lean back into your chair. Wait, is there reality here? Can I get the energy of when I was sitting up, even though I'm not holding it up? Yeah. Yeah, if you practice the whole class, if you letting in your whole body into support, even a more awake spine, it's possible if you let go of controlling it and you don't not control it by surrendering too much to your chair. Both. Lips together, teeth slightly apart. Feel the support of the chair. Alert to receive. Don't become alert by gripping your mind. In Shavasana, nourishment enters the subtle spaces. Your ankles, your knees, your hips, your shoulders, your elbows, your wrists. Open to the relief of the hum. Feel your breath. Don't change it. That's possible if you allow there to be a pure observer. Thank your body. Thank it again. Start to bring yourself back. Slightly deeper inhalation, slightly longer exhalation. When you're ready, open your eyes. It's too bright, close them again, and then choose to open. So, opening to the possibility of a pure observer in your own experience doesn't mean you've perfected it. It just means there's a pure observer there. And if you practice, your glimpses will increase. You'll be able to be in more places at once within your asana without having to have judgment about it. That's why you practice, right? But you got to think and allow. Not all think, you have to allow that there's a pure observer, right? And going like, dang, and it's waiting for you. You don't earn the pure observer, you allow it, and then you practice. Right? It's not whether you're worthy, it's whether you allow it. All right, everybody, hands together. Namaste. Spirit in me bows to the spirit in you.